Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and we are going to take a look at the astrological weather forecast for the week of November 16th through the 22nd. And remember, the podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify under Astrological Winds. So if you don't want to do the YouTube channel, don't need the video, you can look me up on those two podcasts websites and find Astrological Winds there too. All right, this week have a couple planets changing signs, and we also have the exact Jupiter Eris square, and talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the month with the monthly forecast for November. And so that is going to be exact this week, and it is a more long-term type of transit. It's going to be felt, it's been being felt pretty much for the last couple weeks or so, and it's going to be felt for another couple weeks pretty strongly. And really, Jupiter is in weak position in Capricorn. I've said that a lot to us this year, and Eris is one of those bodies outside the out in the Kuiper belt that seems to have some influence on us. And Eris is the goddess of chaos, and that is what she seems to be representing, this body. And so the square is there's tension, and the tension lies at the roots of what we value, what our philosophy of life is, what our belief systems are in life. And so Jupiter is one of those planets that's one of the two social planets. So we see a lot of this being played out in society right now, where we have people really dug in deep on their value systems and philosophies, and have really created different sides of divisiveness because of that. And that's that weakness of Jupiter in Capricorn there, kind of being stuck or rigid about your belief systems. And here comes Eris in, and complete chaos breaking out because of that. And I think, in the United States here, we're starting to see or sense some of that in this post-election reactions of people being unhappy, claims of fraud and things like that. What's true and what's not is not for me to really, determine or say. What I will say is that, expect this week, the next couple of weeks, to continue to be very chaotic, and a lot of tension and stress between different groups of society who have different value systems. And what that can lead to, it seems like it's basically part of the story as we watch a lot of the structures of society kind of fall apart or crumble in front of us, or really show their cracks and weaknesses, which is what all that Capricorn with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto going through Capricorn together this year has really, really exposed. So this is going to be one of those points where a lot of it really, and there was a turnaround point. It really was on Friday when Mars went direct last week in Aries, in the sign of the warrior, in the sign of the adventurer, the conqueror. So I really get a sense that the energy is starting to come out, that a lot of the frustration and anger and the things that people are upset about, the different values and stuff, is starting to externalize, and people are acting it out. So it's hard to say, how extreme it could get, but you have the goddess of chaos involved. You have Jupiter involved, which expands everything that it touches, whether positive or negative from our perspective. So definitely more of a societal aspect and a personal aspect on that one, but definitely the biggest aspect of the week. And like I said, Venus and Sun are both going to change signs on Saturday, but there is some other activity before that I'd like to go through. Starting on Tuesday, tomorrow, Mercury is opposite Uranus, and we'll be feeling that even today, Monday, and into Wednesday. And what that is Mercury is the lower mind. It's the intellect. It's it's our education. It's like the things we've learned in our primary education. And Uranus is the higher mind. It's like taking knowledge to a new level. It's very intuitive instead of intellectual. It's like so when Uranus gets involved with Mercury, it really can like download a lot of like new, exciting, interesting ideas that can come from you from other people, other sources, communications, the news, things like that. And what it does is it gets the intellect like overwhelmed. Like the intellect in its normal speed can't keep up with Uranus and the download that Uranus will, and the quickness of the perceptions that Uranus can bring in. So, first of all, is like what that can do is make it difficult to communicate what we're seeing. There may not be like the words, but many times it's just that the mind, the lower mind, the intellectual mind, and our speech or our hands, which we communicate a lot with these days with our typing and stuff, can't keep up with the speed of not only the idea, but how the package of the idea comes in this like big hole, drops in your like lap, and it's just like there, the whole thing, and intuitively you can see the whole thing. It makes like complete sense in this holistic, intuitive way, but like trying to break that into a long linear line of communication, very, very difficult. So like what happens is we kind of get jammed up a little bit in our mind to our tongue. There's like, it just, the highway is not big enough, there's not enough lanes on the highway. So it's like traffic jam, crosstown traffic, So that's kind of what happens. But there are like amazingly brilliant insights that we can especially get from like other relationships and stuff like that. So it's important to, basically somehow note down the most important ones, like turn on the voice memo on the phone and use the app. Talk that idea into the phone, if you don't have enough time to write it down, which, or type it out. So there's going to be some really brilliant stuff to tap into is my point, but it's going to come really quickly. And so on Wednesday then, the sun, which if you remember, it sextiled Jupiter and Pluto and Pallas last week during the new moon. So Saturn is actually moved, is in front or later in Capricorn than where Jupiter and Pluto are at. Jupiter and Pluto and Pallas are about 23 degrees right now, but Saturn's moved out beyond that, 27, 28 degrees. So now the sun on Wednesday is going to sextile Saturn. And what's good about that, I always talk about how the transits tell a story, like, and one transit hands off the story to the next transit. It's like a relay race where, the guy is passing the baton on to the next runner. So what we have on Wednesday is the sun sextiling Saturn. And what I think that really can do is whatever, like, one or two of those ideas that you got from the Mercury-Uranus opposition, it's a great time to, like, get, to, like, take it and use it as an opportunity to build something strong and structured off of. So that's what that gives us the opportunity to do. Like, we will have our own self-directed discipline about something on Wednesday that we're willing to like put the time and effort into to, put aside some of the more pleasurable things or passive things we might want to do and build something up. And the Sun Saturn is not like that frenetic energy either. It's like grounded energy. So it's going to take something from that Mercury Uranus idea zone and ground it and build something strong around it. So that's really nice. And then Thursday we have more Saturn energy coming in. And this time it's going to be Venus squaring Saturn. So Venus, which is getting near the end of Libra, is going to square Saturn, which is getting near the end of Capricorn. And when Venus squares Saturn, it's not easy for our intimate relationships. Significant others, romance, family, good friends, we can feel stuck somehow with them. We can feel in a rut somehow with them that we can't seemingly get out of. And it can feel like depressing and restricting to us. So like closer relationships definitely kind of get a little negative or gloomy, like under the Venus-Saturn square, but it is an excellent aspect to work with stable, long-term, practical business type relationships. And yes, there's going to be challenges from the square in them too, but it's more like, okay, relationships that don't have a lot of emotions involved between them are the ones that work best with the Venus-Saturn. So there's still going to be stuff that needs to be ironed out and hammered out, and there may be some tension between different parties, but it does favor the ability to build stable and practical relationships and longer term type business relationships. So that's on Thursday. And then comes Saturday, and that's the day we have the two planets changing signs. It's actually one planet, Venus, and one luminary, the Sun, but for want of a better term, we'll call them both planets. So Venus is going to go into Scorpio, where the goddess of love is really not that happy. Things kind of get a little too heavy for her in Scorpio. And in the same day, the Sun's going to go into Sag. So that's going to be a very different mix of two energies there. But Venus in Scorpio first is, Venus in Scorpio is traditionally very weak. It's one of the three signs that Venus is least happy with. Venus likes to be light and happy and joyful, and Scorpio causes Venus to get into this like emotional intensity zone where she has to really deal with stuff below the surface. So it's not going to be everything beautiful and colorful and perfect and nice form and all that. It's kind of like, okay, now the like deep, dark, shadowy side of the psyche and relationships starts to bubble up. And so there's an emotional intensity in relationships. And in particular, once again, this is going to affect mainly relationships that are close to us. Scorpio is very tight, close energy. It's the energy of your closest relationships, of your family, your lovers or significant other, your best friends. So this is when like stuff comes up in those relationships that maybe a lot of the times we're willing to kind of look over or look beyond or sweep under in order to, continue a harmonious relationship, at least on the surface. But at this point, like, it brings up issues from the subconscious that have us like acting out in like the intense negative ways of like Scorpio can be. So we can get very possessive about our loved ones, or we may get very frustrated with our loved ones not doing what we want them to do. fall into the game of manipulation, using guilt, using fear, using things like that to get what we want. And the result of that is you push people away instead. You want to bring them closer. You want to get them to see your thing. And you want them to come around to you and where you're at. And instead what you do is you push them away. So this is why Venus has a hard time in Scorpio. She just, she wants relationships that are easier. She wants relationships that are nice. The goddess of love. She doesn't want to get sucked into this intensity where she feels like she has to hold secrets back, where she feels like she has to, play games with people, where misunderstandings come up, where deception is involved, where coercion is involved, where you can even get into dangerous situations with certain people. So it's not an easy energy for the goddess of love to deal with. And for us right now, we've been dealing with this Scorpio energy since mid-October, when Mercury went into Scorpio and then went retrograde, and now, the sun joined Mercury in Scorpio the last 3 weeks. So we've had a lot of intense relationship stuff come up, and this is probably going to be like the final knell here. It's where either the separation occurs, and then there's a lot of the residual dark, shadowy, emotional stuff that each individual has to deal with after a separation, or we reach a new understanding with these people where a lot of the crappy stuff that came up is out in the open now and dealt with on these deep levels, and that can be very, very renewing to the relationship. It can be like the phoenix rising out of the death of a part of the relationship, so it can move into a new place. So very interesting energy with the Venus in Scorpio. And then all this heavy Scorpio energy going on, thankfully on the same day, the sun, our main luminary, is going to go into Sagittarius, a sign that is not nearly as intense in depth with the emotions that Scorpio has. In fact, if anything, what it's going to do is be the next part of the story of having the freedom to be who you are more, having the freedom to go to the places you want to go, having the freedom to be more independent and get to a new horizon, basically. Sagittarius wants to have fun, wants to have adventures, loves to bring along other people, but doesn't necessarily want to lead, be a spoken leader. Would rather kind of just let's go somewhere together, and I will be at the point of this, and you guys just all come along with me. So definitely into going out to the cutting edge and evolutionizing where we're at, bringing something new into our life so that the pattern expands and increases and new changes come in. And we really want to appeal to what our values or philosophies are. So, a lot of times we may go travel, and get new perspective from different cultures, different people, different places. We may want to go and take another course or something to learn more, to get a little bit more education. or we may become more involved with the law or with medicine or something like that, or religion or spirituality. All those things that kind of increase the boundaries of our life, our existence, and kind of go out to the horizon and push it forward. And you know, the biggest issue when the sun goes into Sag is we can get up on a pulpit. Basically, we can kind of turn into a preacher about what we believe in, and feel like we have the answer for everyone. So that can kind of get a little bit self-righteous, and can be a turn off to, you know, if you're getting a little bit too pushy about it. So, but for the most part, what it's really going to do is lift a lot of the energy of Scorpio and start bringing in more of the light again into the shadows. And you know, there's that light. It's going to come in like that, and you know, fill the shadows up. So. So yeah, that's interesting. And then the one last thing I wanted to mention was on Sunday, we have a bumpy Sunday ahead of us next week, next weekend. There's two aspects that are definitely a little bit on the bumpy, edgy side. One is the sun, is what they're going to call sesquiquadrate Mars, and then Mercury is going to quincunx Mars. And so there's a lot of ego energy going to be tied up in Sunday. The Sun-Mars one is bumpy because the Sun and Mars are the two biggest subjective, egotistical energies of the planets. And when they get together in an aspect like a sesquiquadrate, people can get really, really like what I would call like self-centered, selfish, or really subjective in their viewpoint. And there's going to be a lot of energy like accessible. So it's a good day to do something physical. But really, most likely, you're going to want to do it by yourself because it's bumpy energy. It's going to be hard to get along with others. It's going to be hard to work smoothly with others. So do something physical, but solo. And then the Mercury-Mars thing is funny, too. I mean, that can really mean our thinking has gotten very subjective, very egotistical, and then it's off. It's awkward. We say things that, you know, just don't have much tact, kind of come into an environment like a wave and kind of cause like, you know, like bumpy, awkward energy by what we say, by how we're thinking. Or it's just like an edgy, kind of nervous energy, and you kind of like really get your nervous system stressed out, really, like, and it can just like be really high wired. So Sunday's an odd day. It's going to be a day where, you know, really, you know, it'd be best to try to find something to do by yourself, because most likely it would be the easiest way to deal with the energy. Yet it's one of those days that most of us spend with other people and stuff. So you know, if that's the case, you can expect like, you know, a little bit of edginess and what's going on between relationships. All right, so that's about it for this week. Now, guess what? You would think, you know, oh, you know, it's been a, you know, hard year, and we know that Jupiter, your Saturn conjunction is coming on the solstice, on the winter solstice, and it's going to be the, you know, really the big push of the new age of Aquarius coming in. But guess what else is coming in next week? As if we haven't had enough to deal with, it's time for the second eclipse season of the year. And we have had some really intense eclipses already. The last two seasons, really, the one in June and then the one back in last December, January. We had that one in Zero Cancer. And so we've had some, you know, we've had some intense eclipses. And those eclipses, if you know, you may not remember, they really were turning points in what was going on back then with the virus and with a lot of other things. The Black Lives Matter movement, there was a lot of events that got triggered by those eclipses back in January and then again in June. So like this next week and then next month, we have eclipses again, we can expect some really rapidly changing events, both in our personal life and in society, that can really alter the direction of where we're all going. So that is coming next week. We're going to fall into the eclipse season again pretty soon. So probably be talking about that next week, the first one. And anyway, like I said, the blog is also now available on Apple Podcasts, and it's also available on Spotify. So just look it up as Astrological Winds. This is a free service, so the best thing you can do to repay me is to please pass the link on to anyone you know who'd be interested in astrology. And my beginning astrology class is up and going again. Right now, I have the files for the classes on Dropbox. So anyone who's interested in those classes, the first two are available as lectures right now. And they are available for $25 a piece unless you are a student. And if you have a student ID, you can show me for high school or college, and you are under 25. Or if you're a senior citizen who's a student again, it's $20. I will eventually get them up on my website when I get my website republished, so that you can just hit the link from there. But right now, if you'd like to take the class, they're available on Dropbox. Make the payment and I will share the file with you. My email is matthuey823@gmail.com. And I am available for all kinds of readings, natal, predictive, specific questions, elections for the best timing of things, horary questions that if you need to know the answer to something that you're really emotionally attached to, children's charts, all kinds of different astrological services available. So just email me and talk about prices and get a reading if you need it, or give one as a gift even. Anyway, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and I will be back next week with our what will be basically the last week of November's astrological weather forecasts. And until then, sit tight and let's just see what this Jupiter Eris is gonna bring us for the next few days.